call a nature-based solution, where you use what nature's given you, and you're able to really support a cool environment where not only is your mind elevated because you're up here a mile high, but your body's a little bit more elevated too. Mr. Gadow, come talk to us a little bit about engineering without boring us.
All right. I got into treehouse engineering. A friend of mine got me into zip lines. He runs zip line courses in Placer County, and said, dude, you got to come to the treehouse conference. So there's a treehouse conference every year in Oregon, and it's a bunch of old Oregon hippies that design and engineer treehouse. There's some treehouse builders, barefoot builders. They do all their building with no shoes on. It brings teams together of difficult rope access up into the trees to get the anchors into the trees. We call them tree attachment bolts. They haul the beams up in there. They do some thinning. We work with arborists. Anyway, it's been a really neat experience learning the industry, but it's a pretty cool process. I've had the opportunity to stay in some wonderful little cabins, tree houses up in the trees with full plumbing, showers, electrical. It's been great. Treehouse engineering is basically, the house is just like engineering any cabin or building on the ground. We put it up in the trees. Then we support it on a deck. The deck typically, the traditional treehouse is kind of the wraparound, but the cool thing people are doing, like Pete Nelson, Treehouse Nation, we're taking a assemblage of trees, and we run beams back and forth between all the trees, attached to these tree attachment bolts. It's kind of fun because the trees do this, and so we have to allow for the beams and whatnot to not get ripped apart as the trees sway.
Definitely.
So, Walt Young, Gerald asked me to talk about the data gathering methodology for project monitoring. And project monitoring is required from state grants, whether it be 64 or the new Prop 4, 68, excuse me, or Prop 4. And so that's what we're going to discuss. So my background, newly to Northern California. So retired out after 30 years as a law enforcement park ranger for Joint Powers Authority in Southern California, local government, not state, but was tied through the Joint Powers Authority to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, which is a state agency. And so for 30 years, worked hand in hand with the Natural Resources and Planning Division of the Conservancy. Retired out, didn't want to leave the field because I've done this for 50 years because I'm really old, right? And formed a family company, an LLC, myself and a couple similarly situated retired park rangers, BLM or National Park Service. So in essence, I want to talk quickly about how data is collected. And although the state has definitions of what monitoring means, it would fall primarily under surveillance monitoring. Sounds terrible, right? Big brother surveillance, but surveillance monitoring. I prefer Black Law's dictionary, which is to watch, right? So that's what we do. So we have ground-based watching monitoring involving 15 cameras that are live feed, that have AI filtering for people activities, animal activities. They also independently provide time-lapse videos. They take a still every 50 minutes. And so at the end of every month, there's a 1-minute video of everything that happens in the view of that camera, whether it be people or animals. The second thing that we do is we have a site-specific weather monitoring. And besides the typical temperature, humidity, wind, solar, it also provides at 2 different locations ground moisture and also leaf moisture. So when it comes to restoration projects, not when there's 15 inches of rain, but when there's no rain, it can help guide as far as watering for plantings and provide a more scientific approach to it. And lastly, we monitor from the air. We have two thermal standard visual drones that have a set route that are mapped every month, and every 3 months it's a nighttime infrared flight. In addition to that, we use the Vary programming to be able to do it at a fairly elementary level, but valid nonetheless, vegetation health. So we take the original Google map before any of this work took place, and every month we have a composite map that's built for the forested properties to be able to show progress. It also takes ground temperature. Fascinating byproduct, right? You get rid of all the timber and the understory, a lot of hot dirt out there. But again, we don't analyze, but we provide that data. So we monitor from the ground, we monitor the environment, we monitor from the air, and we provide daily spot reports if something is going on, weekly summary reports, monthly summary reports, and all the data is preserved forever. As far as if you want to know what happened at that location 4 months ago, I can tell you. More importantly, the researchers, zoologists, if you will, who really know what they're doing, they can interpret it. So what are sort of the fun facts? Well, we have the standard deer, coyotes, bobcat. Happy to see untagged bear, right? No collars, no tags, mountain lion. And the odd one is we have a free range domestic cat. Somehow survived. And I'm telling you, at 1 o'clock in the morning, it starts at one end of the property and it travels the entire length of the property and then comes back and has done this for years. Wily, right? As far as people goes, extensive neighborhood use. And again, coming from Southern California from a law side, shockingly, in a good way, gate integrity. There was a very large quad motorcycle use. Once the extended gates went up, they've not been vandalized, and that use has diminished greatly. Fishing, all of that. But once again, we can track it over time. We can track it seasonally. And then we can also track as improvements occur, how those improvements may impact when you're looking at the correct quarter versus the following quarter. We have a question in the back.
I just want to understand, how big is this?
You know, I'm gonna have to run up to you here.
How big is this monitoring array? Like you said, the property, the whole 650 acres, like how big are you monitoring?
Right, great question. So get back over here. The majority of the cameras are the lake centric, but also Blue Canyon. And that's, as far as placement goes, we do as directed. So there's tremendous flexibility. You need something, we move it. So that's your direct answer.
We've been kind of roving a little bit with the cameras. Naturally, if there's a place or a space where there's no activity, it's not getting set off by people or animals. We say, we go back to the drawing board and we'll say, all right, let's go to another spot that we think we might have more activity because we just cleared a lot of brush or we cleared a lot of trees or whatnot. And so it's sort of an ongoing thing as far as that goes. Thank you, Mr. Young. So you're looking at the bar, you're looking at the hotel. Behind us, meaning going south that direction, you have Tahoe National Forest. When we received a grant to get this funding, we talked about aspirations where you might be able to hike if you wanted to, or bike all the way from the lake down here. And then from here, if you wanted to, into the network of roads and whatnot at the National Forest. And so, you know, we explored a little bit of what was going on here. Thankfully, Bob, our forester, really walked the entire thing, gave us a full report of what's going on. But the one question that we got at the Sierra Nevada Conservancy board meeting was, are there any trails in the National Forest? And we're like, we think so. We don't know. We're looking at these aerial maps. Where's Ron Gould at? Ron. So Ron is with the North Fork American River Alliance. And Ron is one of these guys who carries like topographical maps in his trunk. That's how much he hikes. And so we were talking with him, and you know, I'm just gonna be honest. I know there's some bears out here. I wasn't gonna go out there by myself. Jay wasn't gonna go. I wasn't gonna go with Jay because she can't help me. Although I might be okay if we went together because I'm faster than her.
Up for debate.
But you know, then we wouldn't have an executive director. So Ron volunteered to go out. And so Ron and Lindsay came out and we said, hey, can you walk the property and see if there's any trails in the Tahoe National Forest? And what did you call it? It's a miner's ditch? Yeah. He said there's an old miner's ditch that was supposed to go through here. And he's pointing out all this stuff on a map that don't make no sense to me, but it made sense to him. They found the miner's ditch, they found the trails, and so our vision is you know, we'll have a conversation with Tahoe National Forest, and maybe we find some other kind of grant or something, and you know, we kind of clear it out so that there's a pathway that will really take you into the National Forest. As a whole, this project really is about whatever your comfort level is. If you're more comfortable being near the freeway, stay near the freeway. But I think we have this hypothesis that if you're hanging out by the lake, you're hanging out in the park, or you're hanging out in a treehouse or whatever, the more time you spend here, the more time you're going to want to see something else. And you might go out a little bit more. And you may not go into the National Forest in the beginning, but eventually you're going to find yourself, whether by yourself or with a group of folks, wanting to just chill, relax, enjoy everything that nature has to offer. So I want to give a shout out to Ron for doing that. But I also want to let Ron...
I've been out in this area hiking around for about 20 years. Found this through a good friend of mine, mentioned this out here. It's just a beautiful area out here. What drew me out here, it's a trail that goes out into the North Fork Canyon out here. Cool. Very wild area, very beautiful, and not traveled very much, but it's a great place. Public's been going out there for years, and about 20 years ago, one of the residents out here got a campaign going of trying to keep the public out. And some of that resulted, I think, in him probably bullying his neighbors to put up gates on their property. And even though we tried to work with the people, they didn't want to take it down. I think it was the pressure they were getting. And we did have to file a complaint in the courts. And we did come out of that with an agreement that they weren't going to be blocking the road and everything. The road does have a county interest in it. I've seen things in the Board of Supervisors minutes from 1860 where the Board of Supervisors declared it public from Dutch Flat all the way out to a old mining community out past Blue Canyon here called Lost Camp. And so we were able to sort of keep the road open for the public, but still people are getting harassed by some of the residents out here, I'll say. and this is ongoing. It's been ongoing for 20 years. And lately here, we've had a gate again show up on the road here, which is a county interest, showing up on the road, putting up no parking signs along the road where it's in the Forest Service lands, things like this. And just generally harassing people when they come across them on the road, telling them that they don't belong on this road, you're not supposed to be out here, all this. So it's Daryl and the 40 acres people are experiencing this now a bit, but it's nothing new. It's an ongoing problem we've had out here. And to me, this is my access into my public lands here. Having all the public lands out here for the way I like to use them, get out and enjoy them, it does me no good if I can't access them. So access to me is extremely important. And that's one of the things I like that the land conservancies bring to us, not just the 40 acres, what we're doing here. Jeff, your great operations over the years. Hey, appreciate it all. So just want you to know that this isn't anything new going on out here. The problems have been occurring out here, been happening for quite a while. So I do welcome the 40 acres coming out here. Help us in our presence out here.
Now, I want to give a quick shout out to Bill. Bill is a landowner down here. He was building a house 20 years ago.
Yeah, we met down on the China Bar Trail probably 20 some years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago,
Building at the time.
there was a neighbor who was unruly, shot off some firearms at some workers, ended up going to jail for probably a little over a decade. So again, when we talk about 40 Acre Conservation League, before you all get here, we go in. We see what's going on. We see what the public is like, what the neighbors are like. We strike the relationships with the sheriffs. We touch base with, if it's a forest, CAL FIRE, and the other institutions, because we're trying to figure out how do we make these spaces as enjoyable as we can. So the fact that Bill even was willing to come, should give a round of applause for him. And whether it's intimidation, trying to access public lands and the whole nine, that's a big part of what we want to figure out and then work to address it, whether it's with other partners like the North Fork Alliance or others, in order to really, again, just make these places comfortable, special, safe places you'd want to take your family and that you feel like you'd be able to enjoy.